By following the Weihe River, we're tracing the extent of an empire that ruled here over 2,000 years ago. Beneath the mounds lies what remains of the vast Qin Empire. Flying along the Qin Straight Road and the Great Wall, we get an idea of the layout of Qin territory. Centuries after the Qin, China enjoyed another golden age under the Tang dynasty. Flying from the Qianling Mausoleum to the Tang capital, Xi'an, we find the city that symbolizes the height of China's past glory. The meeting of the Jinghe and Weihe rivers has given rise to a Chinese idiom, as distinct as the waters of Jing and Wei. The Jinghe is alternately clear and murky, depending on the change of the seasons. During the summer flood season, the high concentration of sediment makes it hard to distinguish one river from the other. But in the dry winter, the sediment of the Jinghe is radically reduced. This creates the iconic contrast of purity and impurity. The Weihe, having been joined by the Jinghe, flows eastward towards its final destination, the Yellow River. Shaanxi people consider the Weihe their mother river. Not only is it the largest tributary of the Yellow River, it's also at the heart of an alluvial plain 36,000 square kilometers in area. On this plain, massive quantities of silt have been accumulated in the course of tens of thousands of years. More than 2,000 years ago, the fertile soil and advanced agriculture of the Guangdong Plain created a miracle, the rise of the Qin Empire. Today, people are still producing statues of Qin dynasty warriors. The smallest are just a few centimeters tall, while the largest can reach over 3.5 meters. The original terracotta warriors are found in 3 giant pits. The nearly 8,000 pieces of the terracotta army form a vast underground legion, fueling the popular imagination about the power and wealth of the Qin Empire. To the west of the Museum of the Terracotta Army, there's an 87-meter high hillside. It covers a mausoleum. The underground palace beneath the mound is the final resting place of Qin Shi Huang, the first Qin emperor. According to historical records, the ceiling of the underground palace is embellished with glittering gems symbolizing the stars and planets. It's also recorded that mercury circulates through a vast network of trenches representing rivers and lakes. It's said that 720,000 workers spent 39 years building this mausoleum. Its total area is equivalent to that covered by 63 forbidden cities. A bird's-eye view reveals that the Great Wall dating from the Ming Dynasty a few hundred years ago has largely survived despite the passage of time and the effects of erosion. However, an earlier Great Wall built in the Qin Dynasty around 2,000 years ago has virtually disappeared. We can only imagine what this magnificent defensive structure must have looked like. The beacon towers of this wall made use of the most advanced means of communication of their day. A mixture of dry wood and wolf dung would be burnt to create dense smoke, an alarm announcing that an enemy was threatening the border. The signal would be relayed from one watchtower to the next. The garrison lived in fortresses. The nearby Great Wall could be quickly reached on horseback. The Qin Empire had a highly advanced transport network. One route, known as the Straight Road, covered the 700 kilometers from Xianyang in Shaanxi to Inner Mongolia. The Great Wall and the Qin Straight Road were both giant structures. Although built at the same time, they served opposing purposes. One was for preventing movement, and the other for promoting communication. The Great Wall defended against nomads invading from the north, while the Qin Straight Road connected the empire's border with its capital. Next, we'll shine a light on another golden age. Lying buried in the Qianling Mausoleum are Tang Dynasty Empress Wu Zetian, the famous woman ruler, and her husband, Emperor Gaozong of Tang. The Spirit Way leading to the Qianling Mausoleum is lined with 61 headless stone statues. What caused the damage to the statues is debated. One theory is that it resulted from a powerful earthquake during the Ming Dynasty. As statues of foreign diplomats from Asian and European countries, they represent the far-reaching power and international standing of Tang China. This city has been known as Xi'an for the past 600 years, but in the 1,500 years prior to that it was called Chang'an. The giant Wild Goose Pagoda is a major Xi'an landmark. Due to its great age, it requires regular renovation. Xuanzang, a leading Buddhist figure during the Tang Dynasty, oversaw the pagoda's construction. In the pagoda, he placed the texts and statues of the Buddha that he'd brought back from India. At the time, most of the city's buildings were no taller than 10 meters, so the giant Wild Goose Pagoda at 60 meters towered so much over everything else that it could be seen from all directions. Over the centuries, it's been rebuilt and enlarged. Today, the pagoda remains much as it was during the Ming Dynasty. The fourth floor still houses 2 pages of the original sutras brought back by Xuanzang. As the starting point of the Silk Road, Chang'an was a flourishing trade city. In the Tang Dynasty, it was a vast metropolis. It was 7 times the size of Constantinople, and at its height, it had a population of over 1 million people. The Tang Dynasty Brick and Wood Imperial Palace was once the largest complex of its kind on Earth. A miniature 1/15th the original size stands beside the Daming Palace ruins. Parts of Daming Palace have been restored, like this 15-metre-high stylobate. This would have formed part of the base of a platform on which the Tang emperors presided over court ceremonies. The ancient Japanese capitals of Nara and later Kyoto were modelled after Chang'an, although built on a more modest scale.